My elementary school field placement was completed at Pershing Elementary School, which is located in University City, Missouri, which is a part of St. Louis. Pershing Elementary serves students K through 5, and the school is comprised of 99.5 African American or Black students and less than 1% of white or Caucasian students. It is located in an urban neighborhood. To talk a little bit about the class that I worked with specifically, it was comprised of 4 students, all of which are 3rd grade males, and the class setting was a resource class. For my instructional unit, I wanted to incorporate something in the math strand of the Common Core because this is something that these students really struggle with. So I chose a standard from the 2nd grade, Common Core standards, which is to solve word problems involving dollar bills, quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies using money, dollar, and cent symbols appropriately. For example, if you have 2 dimes and 3 pennies, how many cents do you have? I chose this unit specifically because the students had just wrapped up a word problem unit with their classroom teacher, and I thought it would be fitting. She also indicated that money is something that these students struggle with. So I wanted to highlight one of my lessons for this presentation. So I chose to talk about my day 3 lesson. So this is going to be the 3rd lesson that I work with these students on. The objective of today's lesson is that students will gain an understanding of the written form of coin values. So the hook, which is the beginning or introduction to my unit, is going to be reading the coin poem. This is something that the students today will take turns reciting for the rest of the group. They really enjoy reading to the group, so I thought this would be a fun start to our activity. We read the poem the first 2 days of class, the first 2 days of the lesson, so they were familiar with it already. And the coin poem says, penny, penny, easily spent, copper brown and worth 1 cent. Nickel, nickel, thick and fat, you're worth 5 cents, I know that. Dime, dime, little and thin, I remember you're worth 10. Quarter, quarter, big and bold, you're worth 25, I am told. So they think that's pretty fun. They specifically have trouble remembering the value of the nickel and the dime, so this poem has really helped that out. So in terms of the lesson for day 3, the first step is to read Smart, which is a poem by Shel Silverstein. Step 2, I will hand the students play money. Of course, I wouldn't want to do that before we read the poem because then they would want to play with the money, which is one of the challenges of this lesson is, you put the play money in front of them and they just want to separate and make piles and aren't necessarily focusing on the smartboard or the whiteboard or the lesson of the day. Step 3 is to reread the poem, and while I'm rereading the poem, the students are going to listen for coin values and they're going to create the combinations described. For example, in the first stanza it says, my dad gave me $1 bill because I am his smartest son, and I swapped it for 2 shiny quarters because 2 is more than 1. Now we're not doing any dollar bills yet, and so they wouldn't have to worry about that. However, they would be expected to pull out 2 quarters, and they would be able to find those among their pile. And then we would discuss how much the quarter was worth, what its value is, and then move on through the poem. And step 4 is to read the poem again so the students can check their work. Step 5, students will work independently to complete a coin value worksheet. This is kind of an exit activity before they leave to see what they took away from today's lesson and what we need to review and work on the next day. So to talk a little bit about differentiation, this is really important with this group specifically. They have They have really varied learning needs. Some of the students required additional time. Some required additional teacher modeling and or additional prompts. Um, I also found peer modeling to be a great strategy for these students to identify the correct answers. For example, if one of the students was doing a great job pulling out the correct amount of money while listening to the poem, I would say, oh, take a look at so-and-so. He has pulled out 2 quarters, which is exactly what we're being asked to do here. So that worked really well. Academic language used in the lesson was really important for these students because they are also delayed in reading and language arts. So terms like how much is a really tough concept for them. However, since they had just concluded their word problem unit, I thought this would be a good time since some of this academic language was fresh on their brains. Of course, they need to know penny, nickel, dime, quarter, and amount, and also value. And those are some tough words. So I did find that to be a really challenging aspect of this also. Coin as well. Coin, they understood coin. Assessment. Students were assessed on knowledge of sorting the coins into piles. This is a formative assessment while we were going along. And then identifying the coin names and values was the summative assessment. So to reflect on my overall of my lesson, I think that the differentiation strategies are the key to success for these students specifically. They have such varied learning needs, and they are skilled in some areas and have some challenges in others, so that's really important. It's also really, really important for these guys to have lots of review of prior learning. Their disabilities are such that it's hard for them to retain things that they've learned, so going over it time and time again is really helpful for them to keep that knowledge. So thanks for checking out my instructional unit, and I hope everyone has a wonderful end of the semester.